When were you exploited for thousands of dollars? I was driving home from therapy when I heard my own words coming through the car speakers. Sometimes I feel like I'm drowning in my own life, like everyone else got an instruction manual and I'm just pretending I know what I'm doing. I nearly crashed into the car in front of me. Those were the exact words I'd said to Dr. Gordon last week, but the podcast host was talking about an anonymous patient who struggled with imposter syndrome. My hands shook as I pulled over and rewound the episode. The popular psychology podcast was discussing anxiety in high achievers. The host, a practicing therapist, shared composite cases from her practice. But this wasn't a composite, this was me. Every detail matched. My job in marketing, my relationship with my mother, the specific dream I'd described about missing flights. The host had changed my name to Client B, but nothing else. I searched through previous episodes with growing horror. There I was, 3 months ago, in an episode about relationship anxiety. My exact words about Noah, how he chews too loud, and I didn't know if that was a real issue or me looking for excuses to leave. 2 months before that, an episode on family trauma featuring my story about my sister's wedding. The host never mentioned names or identifying details like locations, but she shared intimate thoughts I'd never told anyone except Dr. Gordon. Things I'd sobbed about on her couch, believing I was in a sacred, confidential space. At my next appointment, I studied Dr. Gordon carefully. She seemed normal, taking notes on her yellow pad like always. When I tested her by making up a completely false story about a coworker, she responded with her usual thoughtful questions. How did that make you feel? I wanted to confront her but needed proof first. The podcast host's voice was different from Dr. Gordon's, lower and smoother. The show notes mentioned she practiced somewhere in the Pacific Northwest, but no specifics. Still, the timing aligned perfectly. Episodes featuring Client B always released 2 weeks after our sessions. I started recording our sessions secretly on my phone. During one appointment, I deliberately used a distinctive phrase. It's like I'm a ghost haunting my own life. Sure enough, 2 weeks later, those exact words came through a podcast episode about dissociation. The evidence was undeniable, but I felt trapped. How do you confront someone who holds all your secrets, who knows your deepest shames and fears? I started having panic attacks about our sessions, unsure what would become public entertainment next. I tried switching therapists, but Dr. Gordon required a final session for closure. She seemed genuinely sad about my decision, asking if she'd done something wrong. Her concern appeared so real, I almost doubted myself. Almost. I just need a different approach, I lied. Of course, I want what's best for you. You've made such wonderful progress. 2 weeks later, the podcast featured an episode about client abandonment. Client B was struggling with trust issues and had abruptly left therapy. The host discussed the therapeutic relationship with such intimate knowledge that listeners commented about feeling like they were in the room. I finally worked up the courage to email the podcast through their website. I wrote that I believed my confidential information was being shared and I would take legal action. The response was swift and corporate. They took privacy seriously, and all cases were completely anonymized composites. But the Client B stories stopped immediately. For months, I listened to each new episode with dread. Nothing about me surfaced. I started to believe it was over until I got a text from my friend Jessica. This is so weird, but there's this podcast talking about someone exactly like you. Same job, same issues with your mom, even that thing about the recurring dream. A different psychology podcast, bigger than the first, was now featuring stories about patient X. Same details, same timeline, same violations of trust. The host's voice was different again, but the content was unmistakable. I hired a lawyer who specialized in healthcare privacy violations. She found 3 more podcasts featuring my stories. Different hosts, different production companies, but all sharing sessions from Dr. Gordon's couch. Some changed small details, others shared word-for-word transcripts of my most vulnerable moments. The investigation revealed Dr. Gordon wasn't one person. It was a name used by a collective of therapists who shared patient stories for content. And when I found that out, I was finally ready to go back and confront her. Full story on channel linked below.